There's a person in your life, and when something hurts them, they don't fight, they don't argue, they go quiet. And the moment that silence hits, everything changes. You feel it. You can't explain it, but you will feel it. Most people see that silence and think, they're cold. They're punishing me. They shut down. Wrong. What you're witnessing is one of the most powerful emotional responses the human brain is capable of. Not weakness, not withdrawal, depth. While you're waiting for a reaction, they're already 3 levels deep, processing not just what happened, but check on why. What shifted? What broke? What was never said but always felt? Their silence isn't empty. It is deafening. In ways most people will never have the capacity to understand. Today, we go inside that silence. What it really is, why it happens, and why the people who carry it are the most misread people on this planet. Pay attention, because what you're about to learn changes how you see everything. Short, heavy, every line lands like a punch. There's a person sitting across from you right now. Maybe not physically, maybe in your memory, maybe in the back of your mind where you keep the people who matter most. And something happened between you two. Maybe it was a word. Maybe it was a tone. Maybe it was something so small that if you tried to explain it to someone else, they'd look at you like you were overreacting. But you weren't overreacting. You felt it. That invisible shift. That moment where something changed and you couldn't point to exactly what, but you knew. Something was different now. And then they went quiet. No argument. No explosion. No dramatic exit. Just silence. And somehow that silence felt louder than anything they could have said. You waited for a reaction. You expected something? Anger maybe. Tears. Words. Anything that made sense to you. Anything that followed the emotional script you were familiar with. But instead you got nothing. Just a person who was there one moment. Fully present, fully engaged, and then suddenly somewhere else entirely. Still in the room. Still in front of you. But completely unreachable. And here's what happened next. You started to feel uncomfortable. Not because they did something dramatic. Not because they attacked you or accused you or made a scene, but because that silence, that complete, total stillness started doing something to you. It got under your skin. It made you question things. It made the air feel heavier, and without a single word, without a single action, the entire dynamic of the room shifted. Most people experience that moment and immediately start filling in the blanks. They're angry. They're punishing me. They're being manipulative. They want me to chase them. They're playing games. And that interpretation feels real. It feels logical. It feels like the only explanation that makes sense. So you react to that story. You push. You ask questions. You demand answers. You do whatever it takes to break that silence because the silence itself has become unbearable. But here's what nobody tells you. That story you told yourself, every single word of it was wrong. Not partially wrong. Not slightly off. Completely, fundamentally wrong. Because what you labeled as coldness was actually overwhelm. What you called withdrawal was actually depth. What you interpreted as a power move was actually one of the most emotionally honest responses a human being is capable of producing. You looked at that silence and saw distance, but what was actually happening was the opposite of distance. It was someone feeling so much, so deeply, so completely that words became impossible. Not because they had nothing to say, but because what they felt was too large, too layered, too complex to compress into a simple sentence and hand to you right there in that moment. You were looking at someone drowning quietly, and you thought they were choosing to swim away from you. That's the pattern, and it happens constantly. Every single day. In relationships, in friendships, in families, in workplaces, someone gets hurt, they go quiet, and the people around them immediately misread that silence as something strategic, something cold, something intentional. And that misreading, that one mistake in interpretation, causes more damage than the original hurt ever could have. Because now the person who was already overwhelmed has to deal with something else on top of everything they were already carrying. They have to manage your reaction to their silence while still processing the very thing that caused it. And that is where everything breaks down. Not in the moment of hurt, but in the moment of misunderstanding what that hurt looks like from the inside. Watch someone carefully the next time they get hurt. Not the ones who shout, not the ones who cry immediately or throw words back or make sure everyone in the room knows exactly how they feel. Watch the quiet ones, the ones who absorb it, the ones whose face changes just slightly, not dramatically, not obviously, but enough. If you know how to look, you'll catch it. A small shift in the eyes, a stillness that wasn't there before. A smile that doesn't quite reach where it used to. Something almost invisible that tells you everything changed in that exact moment. Most people miss it completely. They're too busy talking. Too busy defending themselves or explaining their side or waiting for their turn to speak. And so that small, quiet signal passes by unnoticed. And the person sending it, the one whose entire internal world just shifted, watches it go unacknowledged. Watches the moment pass. Watches life continue around them like nothing happened. Like what they just felt didn't register on anyone else's radar at all. And so they go inward. Not because they planned to. Not because they decided silence was the best strategy in that moment, but because the outside world stopped feeling safe for what they were carrying. Because they looked around for somewhere to put what they were feeling and found nothing. No open hands. No available space. No one who slowed down long enough to notice that something had just shifted in the person standing right in front of them. So they hold it, they carry it quietly. They take everything they're feeling and they bring it somewhere no one else can reach, inside themselves. Where it's safe, where it can't be dismissed or minimized or turned into something it isn't. And from the outside, that looks like nothing. That's what makes it so easy to miss. Because there's no performance. There's no signal that most people are trained to recognize as emotional pain. There's no raised voice telling you to pay attention. There's no tears demanding a response. There's just a person who was fully present a moment ago, engaged, connected, real, and is now somewhere slightly out of reach. And the people around them, they move on. They assume everything is fine because nothing looks broken. Because broken to most people has to be loud. It has to be visible. It has to announce itself. And when it doesn't, and when it stays quiet and contained and almost invisible, it gets overlooked every single time. But here's what's actually happening beneath that stillness. That person is observing everything. Every word you said and every word you didn't. Every shift in your tone. Every pause that lasted a second too long. Every moment where something felt slightly off before it even became something they could name. They noticed all of it. While you were talking, while you were moving through the moment without a second thought, they were registering details that most people's brains simply don't pick up. Not because they're suspicious. Not because they're looking for problems, but because that's how they're wired. Their nervous system is tuned to a frequency most people can't even hear. They pick up on energy before it becomes words. They feel shifts before they become actions. They sense something changing in a room, in a relationship, in a single conversation, sometimes before the other person is even fully aware that something has changed. And when that level of awareness meets a moment of hurt, it doesn't produce noise. It produces silence, because they are suddenly holding more information than they know what to do with. More feeling than language can contain. More awareness than the moment has space for. And the only honest response to that much internal weight is stillness. Not coldness. Not strategy. Just the quiet of someone carrying something real. Everything you thought you knew about this needs to change. Not adjusted. Not slightly reconsidered. Completely flipped. Because the story most people carry about empaths who go quiet, who pull back, who disappear into themselves when something hurts them, that story is built on the wrong foundation entirely. And when your foundation is wrong, everything you build on top of it is wrong too. Every assumption, every reaction, every conclusion you've ever drawn about what their silence means. So let's start over. From the beginning, you were taught somewhere along the way that emotional strength looks a certain way, that it's loud, that it's expressive, that it means standing your ground in the moment, saying what you feel when you feel it, not letting anything pass without a response. The person who speaks up immediately, who names what happened, who confronts it directly, who doesn't let silence sit, that's the one who has it together. That's the one who's emotionally available. That's the one who's strong. And the one who goes quiet? Weak, avoidant, difficult, broken. That's the story, and almost everyone believes it. Because it's the story that gets repeated. In relationships. In families. In every piece of advice that tells you to communicate, to speak up, to not bottle things up, to express yourself before it's too late. But that advice was never written for people who feel the way empaths feel. Because it assumes that feeling and speaking happen at the same speed. It assumes that the moment something hurts you, the words to describe that hurt are immediately available. Ready, formed, waiting to be delivered. And for some people, that's true. They feel something and they say it almost simultaneously. The emotion arrives and the language follows right behind it like it was always there waiting. But for an empath, that's not how it works. Not even close. When something hurts an empath, it doesn't arrive as one clean emotion with a clear label on it. It arrives as a wave, multiple things at once. Disappointment layered under confusion, layered under something that feels like grief but isn't quite grief. And underneath all of that, questions. So many questions. Not dramatic ones, quiet ones. The kind that don't announce themselves but just start running in the background. Was that intentional? Did something change? Did I miss something earlier? Is this about right now, or is this about something deeper? And all of that happens simultaneously in real time, while the moment is still unfolding. Now ask yourself honestly, how do you speak clearly when that much is happening at once? How do you form a sentence that accurately captures something that complex while you're still inside it? While it's still moving through you? While you haven't even reached the bottom of it yet? You don't. You can't. And attempting to would only produce something incomplete. Something that sounds like what you feel but misses the actual truth of it by a significant distance. And for an empath, saying something that doesn't fully reflect what they feel isn't just frustrating, it's almost unbearable. Because accuracy matters to them in a way it doesn't matter to everyone. They don't want to give you a rough approximation of their pain. They want to give you the real thing. Exact. Honest. Complete. So they wait, and while they wait, something extraordinary is happening inside them. They are doing emotional work that most people don't even know exists. They are sorting through layers, separating what they assumed from what they actually felt, identifying what was real and what was reaction, pulling apart the moment piece by piece until they understand it well enough to speak about it truthfully. That is not weakness dressed up in silence. That is discipline, running quietly, invisibly, in real time. The kind of emotional discipline that most people will spend their entire lives never developing. Because it's easier to react, it's easier to say the first thing that comes. It's easier to let the emotion drive the words before the mind has had any chance to shape them into something meaningful. Empaths don't take the easy route. Not because they're trying to be difficult. Not because they enjoy the discomfort of holding everything in. But because they have a relationship with truth that runs deeper than most people's relationship with comfort. They would rather sit in the difficulty of silence than open their mouth and say something that isn't fully real yet. And when you understand that, when you actually let that land, the silence stops looking like avoidance. It starts looking like integrity. They don't tell you when something breaks inside them. They just carry it, quietly, completely, without asking anyone to notice, without making it anyone else's problem, without giving you a single visible sign that something fundamental just shifted in the way they see you, the way they see themselves, the way they see everything that exists between the two of you. They carry it alone. And that, right there, is the part nobody talks about. Not the silence itself. Not the withdrawal or the distance or the way they seem to disappear into themselves without warning. But the weight of what they carry inside that silence, the sheer volume of it. Because it's not just the thing that hurt them. It's everything attached to that thing. Every memory it pulled forward. Every old wound it brushed against. Every moment from before that suddenly feels relevant again now that this new thing has happened. It all comes at once. And they hold all of it, at the same time, without letting it spill. Think about what that actually requires, not emotionally, physically, because emotion lives in the body. It's not abstract. It's not theoretical. It sits in your chest. It tightens your throat. It changes the weight of your breathing. It makes your hands feel different, your jaw, your shoulders, the space behind your eyes. Every unspoken feeling has a physical address, and empaths know every single one of them intimately. Because they've been living inside that experience their entire lives. They know what it feels like to smile when something inside them is screaming. They know what it feels like to sit across from someone and hold a conversation and laugh at the right moments and respond when spoken to, while something underneath all of that is churning, moving, pulling at them from the inside, demanding attention they can't give it right now because the moment isn't safe enough. The space isn't right. The person in front of them isn't ready for what's actually happening beneath the surface. So they wait, they function, they show up, they do what the moment requires of them. And all the while, underneath everything visible, something is being processed. Something is being examined. Something is being understood slowly, carefully, completely. And nobody sees it. That's the part that breaks them quietly over time. Not the hurt itself. The invisibility of how they carry it. The fact that they can be standing right in front of you, close enough to touch, close enough to reach, and you have absolutely no idea what they're actually holding in that moment. Because they've become so practiced at carrying it silently that silence has become indistinguishable from peace. But it isn't peace. It never was. It's weight, managed so carefully, so consistently, so privately that it looks like nothing from the outside. It looks like fine. It looks like okay. It looks like someone who has it together, someone who isn't affected, someone who moved on already. They didn't move on, they went deeper. Deeper into the feeling, deeper into the questions it raised, deeper into the examination of what happened and what it means and what it reveals about the people involved in the space between them. While you were moving forward, they were going inward. While you were forgetting, they were understanding. While the moment was fading for you, it was becoming clearer for them. Every detail sharpening, every layer revealing itself one at a time. Every truth about what happened slowly rising to the surface where they can finally see it completely. And when they finally have all of it, when the picture is whole and clear and honest, that's when they speak. Not before. Not when you want them to. Not when the moment feels right to you. Not when the silence has become uncomfortable enough that you push for a response just to relieve your own tension. Only when it's real. Only when every word they're about to say actually reflects what happened inside them. Fully. Accurately. Without anything missing or distorted or rushed into a shape that doesn't quite fit the truth. Because for them, speaking too soon isn't just uncomfortable, it's a betrayal of themselves, of the truth, of everything they felt that deserved to be understood completely before it was handed to someone else. So they wait until it's right. And when it finally comes, like when they finally open up and let you in, what you receive isn't just words. It's everything.